Buildings, Cabot, the tourists, the areas, and if you're going to get a caution station or a Salford station, it's probably that service it's actually going to serve it. So we need to work with First Great Western on that. On the bus priority measures, well, I'm very disappointed to see the Wells Ways lack of bus priority measures in that scheme so far, and I've gone through it like a tooth comb, and we have some places we're proposing to put bus stops in, and this is down in the Farrington Gurney area, and around Clutton and into Whitchurch, where we're just doing a bus stop on one side of the road with disabled access, but not the other. The whole scheme has been looked at from a cycling perspective, but not properly from a bus perspective. So we need to revisit that and make sure we put more money into it, Sarah, to do the buses. It's the buses that will carry the majority of people in that area, and the A37 needs looking at properly. So I'd ask for those schemes to be looked at. They're not cycle schemes. The money came through BSIP and through the City Regional Transport Fund to fund the buses. And we also need to revisit and look at what we're going to do with bus priority between Bristol and Bath. It's going to go to Brislington, need to get it through Keynsham, through Salford, and into Bath. Now, whether the bypass goes down the bypass and we take the buses through Keynsham is something we need to debate with the town council and debate with the community. But we cannot have no bus priority measures on that corridor. That's absolutely... And then the two final points is the state of Bristol bus station, which is absolutely appalling, not clean, pigeons flying around it, and the same applies to Bath. I've been there tonight. The real-time information is not working, the bins are overflowing, and the state of it doesn't give an impression to the city region with the railway station. The real-time train information is all out. It needs a really good clean, and it needs a proper cleaning contract here. So I'd ask that urgent talks take place with First Group about Bristol and Bath bus stations and the Mayor and WECA to make sure, and we are putting some money into the real-time information, we're funding that stuff through WECA. So First has got to step up to the plate. I know it's the shopping centre company, you've had this conversation with the Chief Exec before, they're in the middle of it, but can we please get it clean and tidy and some information points in there where the travel centre is working with the environment. We're still no racks in this here. That's my points, thank you.
Thank you, David. All very sensible points, but normal. Thank you for your comments. We'll move on to Guy Simpson. Guy?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Guy Simpson, Chairman of Macaulay Buildings and Prospect Road Residents Association. I'm here today to thank Whitcomb councillors and the council officers for their help in our recent road safety improvements. I have lived in Macaulay Buildings for over 20 years and have witnessed since then so many accidents on the corner where the cul-de-sac starts. Most accidents over the years have involved cyclists entering the corner at speed and then losing control, either hitting parked cars or going into the wall. When I was elected chairman of our Residents Association in 2019, my main priority was to support the very long campaign to deal with the dangers of our corner, and this is when I first met Councillor Bourne and Councillor Dogood. We had an incredibly positive meeting with Councillor Bourne and Dogood. They listened to our concerns, and I think that something needs to be done. They gave us their full support, first with the student reducing speed from 30 miles an hour to 20 miles per hour, and then looking for funding to implement physical road safety measures to make the corner safe for motorists, pedestrians and cyclists, and slowing traffic entering the bend. After Councillor Dogood stepped down in May 23, the newly elected Councillor Deborah Collins also offered their full support. Since that initial meeting in 2020, I have been in regular contact with Councillor Bourne, who has always kept me informed of any progress on our campaign. At times, residents became very frustrated on how long this length of process was taking, while still witnessing ongoing accidents on the corner. In late 2021, speed reduction from 30 miles per hour to 20 miles per hour was approved, but again, frustratingly, it took some time for the signage to be installed. We were delighted when we were first told that funding had been made available to eventually install physical measures to slow traffic on this dangerous stretch of road. Many residents attended the Whitcomb Hill public consultation in September 2023 to view the initial traffic engineer's plans, and moving forward from this meeting, it was very much a collaboration between the residents and the engineers to find a solution that everyone was happy with. The physical road safety measures were finally implemented in March this year. We were all impressed with the quality of work that was carried out and are sympathetic to the design and quality of materials that were used. The corner feels safer now, but we think a few minor alterations on the road markings will improve safety further by increasing visibility before navigating the corner. So, on behalf of Macaulay Buildings and Prospect Road Residents Association, I would first like to thank our local councillors Alison Bourne, Deborah Collins and previous Councillor Winston Dogood for their support and commitment to secure funding. Thank you to the traffic engineers Thomas Slane and Neil Terry for listening to the residents' suggestions and concerns and being always open to discussion and generous with their time. Also, thank you to the Council for supporting the scheme and allocating funds for these improvements. And lastly, many thanks to the contractors that carried out the improvements, as they were always happy to answer questions, give residents access to the terrace when possible, and for their excellent work they have done. So thank you.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you, and thank you for your kind work, and well done to the officers and councillors involved. Thank you very much. We want to Councillor Jess David.
Thank you. So this statement is made on behalf of Curo leaseholders at Hillside Road and Moorfields Road in Bath, and more broadly on behalf of other residents who may be affected by similar issues. I want to highlight concerns about the sudden and substantial increase in service charges levied on leaseholders, which is underpinned by a long-term failure to build up an adequate sinking fund and to plan for foreseeable work. For residents at Hillside Road, for around 10 years between 2013 and 2022, leaseholders were asked to contribute an average of just £124 a year or £10 a month into a sinking fund. However, in 2023, this figure rose abruptly to £1,767 a year, which was around a 1,400% increase. Such a dramatic rise suggests not only a failure to plan, but also a disregard for the financial well-being of residents who had not been warned or prepared for such costs. The purpose of the sinking fund, as stated in a letter from Soma Housing in 2008, is to set aside money regularly to cover for the cost of future maintenance and repairs to external and communal areas. This is specifically to avoid large and unexpected bills. However, in this case, leaseholders were faced with exactly that, significant and unanticipated charges relating to major works carried out in 2023-24, the replacement of communal fire doors and the re-roofing of the building. Although the roof was known to be ageing and had required repairs as far back as 2016-17, no action was taken to review its condition regularly or to increase sinking fund contributions or to revise the timeline for its eventual replacement. Curo's 10-year plan, issued in 2022, made no provision for re-roofing until 2032, by which time the roof would have been 64 years old, far exceeding the life expectancy of similar structures. And despite the introduction of more stringent fire safety regulations following the Grenfell Tower tragedy, no steps were taken to ensure that sufficient funds were available to meet these requirements. Residents at Ascension House in Moorlands are facing a similar situation, with bills for a roof replacement, fire safety work and internal decoration running to tens of thousands of pounds per household. As a direct result of inadequate planning, leaseholders have been left to cover thousands of pounds in shortfall payments, costs they were neither prepared for nor fairly forewarned about. This has placed an unfair and unacceptable burden on residents who have limited opportunities to question the way the buildings are managed or the level of charges for the works. So I'd like to ask Cabinet members to raise these issues directly with Curo and other major landlords, and to press for greater transparency and urgent improvements in how service charges and sinking funds are managed. Please also raise this issue with local MPs and government ministers, and support calls for further national policy reform to prevent leaseholders across the country from being exposed to excessive and unexpected costs. This is not only a matter of financial justice, but one of fairness, accountability and public confidence in social and leasehold housing management.
Thank you, Jess. Very serious. I'm sure the Cabinet member will make sure we take that up formally with Curo, and we'll make sure that gets passed on to the MPs as well. Thank you very much. Councillor Fiona Gawley.
Previously, you've heard me wax lyrical on buses and trains, but tonight I'm wearing a different hat as trustee for the Fashion Museum Bath. I was appointed because the foundation needed a Baines counsellor, and my previous experience as a fundraiser for museums in London and Oxford is relevant and I hope useful. Over the years, the museum costumes visitor numbers dwindled, with limited display change, little local engagement and poor storage conditions. So when the National Trust decided to take back the assembly rooms, it created an opportunity to look afresh at the collections and how it could be better displayed. It is an internationally significant collection of 100,000 objects, telling the history of British clothes and fashion for the past 500 years. Fortuitously, the old post office became available around the same time. So the Fashion Museum Bath, at the heart of the new Milton Quarter, became a very real possibility. Baines should take credit for its ambitions, imagination and financial backing of this project. WECA deserves credit too for the generous grant to buy the old post office. Both gave confidence to the National Lottery Heritage Fund to support this project. NLHF have granted $768,000 for the first development phase, taking the project to REBA Stage 2 and developing business, engagement and fundraising plans. Whilst this doesn't absolutely guarantee that they will grant the full delivery funding of £7.2 million, the likelihood is high if the plans proceed satisfactorily. In fact, Fashion Museum Bath is more advanced than necessary at this point. Our experienced team are working at pace to submit the detailed designs in March 2026. The Fashion Museum Bath will have an international significance as it speaks to issues of sustainability, business and design. It will attract thousands of visitors as well as residents. Importantly, it will appeal to young people in Baines, particularly teenagers who love clothes and fashion. It will offer inclusive opportunities for creative skills trainings for those who may not typically visit our museums. Baines is already supporting young people at risk, not in education or training. The Fashion Museum can offer them new opportunities. The Arts Council has granted $20,000 to help digitise the collection and make it more accessible online, with young people aged 16 to 24 already involved. Over the summer, the engagement team will run consultation activities, including Fashion Unpacked, a mini museum in a converted library van, which will showcase objects and tour the wider reaches of North East Somerset, taking the museum to the people. The architects and designers are progressing well. Baines has given pre-application advice and a planning consultant appointed to ensure the process runs smoothly and to time. Stakeholder consultation, including Historic England, has been positive. The aim is to submit for planning permission early next year and to launch in 2030. The scheme is very exciting, with a new pedestrian area outside, a lively facade with changing visuals and displays, an internal garden oasis, multiple galleries, a new learning space and a cafe. There is a clear fundraising plan, with approaches underway to potential advocates, donors, companies and funders. The backing of Baines, WECA and the NLHF makes securing the remaining funds far more likely. This is a fantastic opportunity to have a world-class new museum in Bath, which will provide wonderful opportunities for engagement and enrichment for our residents, particularly young people. I am so proud to be part of it, and I hope you are too.
Thank you, Councillor Gourley. Because this is a particular favourite topic of mine, I allowed you an extra 45 seconds. Yeah. Which is shockingly appalling, I think. Yeah, thank you very much. Excellent project and great progress. So we look forward to hearing more about it. Well done. The public may wish to leave now, or they may stay. But yeah, there's an opportunity while we sign the minutes for you to go and enjoy the remainder of the sunshine, whatever's left. We'll move to the minutes of the previous meeting. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Ball. Yes, everybody. All in favour? Put your hands. Thank you. Okay. Item 9, consideration of single-member decisions, there are none. Item 10, consideration of matters referred to by policy, there is none. Recent single-member decisions taken, I ask the Cabinet to note those. So I'll move to the first paper of the evening, which is a Corporate Strategy 2023-2027, end-of-year review for 24-25. Councillor Elliott to propose, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the report we have in front of us reviews the Council's performance against the corporate strategy which we adopted in July 2023. The corporate strategy is the guiding document that reflects the aims of this administration. It embodies the manifesto we were elected on 2 years ago. It sets out what the Council plans to do and how it plans to do it. It sets out the Council's one overriding purpose: to improve people's lives, based around two core cross-cutting policies: giving people a bigger say and tackling the climate and ecological emergency. It establishes the three principles which will guide the implementation of those policies: delivering for residents, focusing on prevention, preparing for the future. It's easy to be cynical about these kinds of statements, but what this report does is set out how we're living up to that purpose and those policies and principles, as well as being honest about where we need to improve. In July last year, Cabinet agreed a set of key performance indicators against which the Council's progress can be measured, and this is the first time we've tried to embed those into the annual report. I think it's fair to say that I view this as a really good first step in this approach to reporting rather than a finished article. I think we would all agree that the KPIs need regular reviewing, and we should devote some time and proper consideration to that as a group. The report asks us to provide guidance on potential revisions to the KPIs and to consider how the corporate PDS panel might be involved in that process. That's something I would be extremely supportive of. Not all the indicators are positive, and that's something we want to be transparent about. But I think it's fair to say that where indicators are negative, it's in areas where the Council has less direct influence. But we're not using that as an excuse. We have set out how we're trying to use the Council's influence, working with partners, lobbying government, to improve metrics, even where we don't have access to all the levers we would like. Reflecting on the three key principles set out in the strategy, I just want to draw out some highlights from the report. Starting with delivering for residents, building the right homes in the right places is a key commitment of the administration, and during the last year we have seen 712 net new homes completed, up 40% on the previous year. We've seen major progress on brownfield schemes such as Bath Quays North and Bath West and Riverside. We're constructing 18 new social rent apartments at Argyle Works and 16 new supported living units at English Combe Lane. We believe in decent, energy-efficient housing as a social good, not a luxury. Our commitment to cleaner, greener neighbourhoods is evidenced, with household recycling and recovery staying above 94%, an extra £250,000 invested in fast response street teams. The introduction of a chewing gum littering task force and red reusable recycling bags show that small changes can add up. And there's an extra £1 million of investment in our neighbourhood services overall. Residents asked for visible action on litter, graffiti and weeds, and we're delivering it. We promised more travel choices, and the park and ride hours have been extended to 11:30, backed by the second best customer satisfaction score in the country out of 96 local authorities. Our Transport Action Map now tracks more than 200 schemes in real time, and we resurfaced 103,000 square metres of carriageway, 9,130 square metres of footway, and repaired over 5,000 potholes. We'll be hearing lots more later in the meeting about the brilliant way our Highways Department have been delivering on our priorities, so I won't steal too much of their thunder. Whilst not being anti-car, as some of our opponents would characterise it, we do put people before traffic. Serious injury collisions fell again this year. Our focus on prevention can be seen through our work with children and young people, where our long-standing early years attainment gap between disadvantaged and non-disadvantaged children, an area which I know is of particular concern to Cabinet colleagues, fell from 39% to 32%. The number of child protection plans stepped down has increased to 80%. We have external validation of our work with young people, with Ofsted praising our children's services for their support and commitment to care-experienced young people, noting that children are well supported and benefit from enduring relationships with people who care for them and about them. And an HM Inspectorate of Probation report highlighted the outstanding work of our Youth Justice Service staff, rating the service as good overall. Performance flows from our priorities. Investment in people early on is not only doing the best by those children, but also saves larger costs in the long run. Our work in public health is epitomised by the Community Wellbeing Hub, a model of partnership working that now unites 37 partners and has helped 15,000 residents. Under the Preparing for the Future principle, we are leaders in tackling the climate and nature emergency. Working with partners again, we helped secure £1.5 million of National Lottery Climate Action Fund grant for community energy projects. The area's installed renewable energy capacity rose by 50% in 3 years, with an 80 megawatt pipeline coming. Tree planting and meadow projects added habitat equal to 23 hectares of grassland restored since 2021. Carbon emissions across Bath and East Somerset are still too high. We do not hide that. But we have funded heat pump installs, are working on estate decarbonisation, and we have a fully electric fleet roadmap, precisely because we as Liberal Democrats refuse to leave the problem for future generations to solve. With regard to skills and good jobs, the median resident wage climbed 4% to £40,218, exceeding the national and regional median wage figures. Our employment and skills pod moved 115 residents into work, 77 now on a real living wage. Our skills boot camps funding has seen 70 staff upskilled and helped 14 unemployed learners into full-time employment. We pushed the Good Employment Charter because fair pay and secure work drive prosperity. Culture and tourism is obviously fundamentally important to the area, and the Roman Baths really is a jewel in our crown. The Baths welcomed over 1 million visitors and returned a record surplus to the Council, helping subsidise the services the Council provides and spreading the wealth generated across the whole authority area. 6 of our heritage sites won regional awards, and the Bath Christmas Market generated £41.5 million of turnover for local businesses and supported more than 500 jobs. Heritage pays dividends when you couple conservation with modern management and innovation. Under the Listening to Residents banner, we said we'd give people a bigger say, and we held 30 public meetings and events and received 10,600 consultation responses across 30 separate online consultations. We're investing over £250,000 in a new customer contact system as part of our unified communications strategy, ensuring everyone can easily access and use the Council's services. We do need to acknowledge that the headline indicator, residents who feel that they can inform decision-making, fell from 20% to 11%, and we take that seriously. In response to that, we'll be trialling new approaches to communication and engagement with residents, with the aim of reaching a wider range of people and making engagement more accessible. We are an ambitious and active administration. We want to get things done, so there will always be genuine disagreements with groups of residents who oppose what we're trying to achieve. But participation sits at the core of Liberal Democrat values, so we must work hard to try and turn that number around. But overall, I believe this report sets out the impressive progress the Council is making against its corporate strategy and its core aim of improving people's lives. The report demonstrates that Liberal, local, community-minded leadership delivers practical results: cleaner air, warmer, affordable homes, rising wages, safer streets, a greener local economy. So I move the recommendations set out in 2.1A to C.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Councillor Bourne, second.
Councillor Elliott has clearly set out the salient points and some notable highlights from this progress report on delivering the corporate strategy for Bath and North East Somerset. I won't repeat them, but I will observe that to my mind, this report is about clarity, transparency and accountability. It is clear about the Council's purpose, what we're doing to achieve that purpose, and how progress is being measured across a broad range of services and indicators. It's helpful to reflect on achievements, and there are many, but also to identify the areas where more work is needed. The report gives an open account of where we are and what we still need to do, ensuring that we are accountable to our residents. I commend this approach and I'm happy to second the report.
Thank you, Councillor Bourne. So the corporate strategy has been moved and seconded. I'll move to the debate. Councillor Warren.
Thank you. I really welcome this new style end-of-year review report. In some ways, as Mark said, it is still a work in progress, but it's absolutely evolving in the right direction to more effectively illustrate performance and progress on some of the indicators that matter most to us. Note that in some instances there is a delay in the availability of data to us at the Council, which means that a measure will be reporting a year or two in arrears. There may often be nothing we can do about that when data is supplied to us by external organisations. In overall headlines of this report, emissions of both the greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide, and the pollutant, nitrogen dioxide, are heading in the right direction, downwards, and we are being recognised as a leading council in this field. On carbon emissions for the year from January 2021 to 2022, the data on which this measure is based, we've seen a 5.6% reduction. It's very pleasing to note that the downward trajectory that existed before the pandemic resumed again afterwards. We've been ranked 7th council in the UK overall on climate action by Climate Emergency UK Scorecard Tracker, and first for buildings and heating. And we were awarded a reporting system for local government. And these all reflect the hard work that all of us, as well as the staff, the officers, have been putting into this area. Despite our efforts, however, in common with all other local government organisations, we need to be seeing more progress
So in 2019, we set ourselves a very challenging target in aiming for net zero by 2030 to bring us into line with the IPCC's Paris Agreement objective. But like all other communities in the UK, we do need significantly more support from national government to come close to achieving this. This report, though, is stuffed full of detail of our other activities that are taking us in the right direction on this. So, as we've heard, we're investing £5 million in decarbonising our fleet, and we have £39 million more of projects in the pipeline, many in partnership with the Combined Authority and local third sector organisations for renewable energy and tree planting. So our installed renewable energy has increased, as we've heard, and we have a pipeline, which means we should be well on track to hit our interim target of 100 megawatts in the coming years. On the air pollutant nitrogen dioxide, we have set a local target of 36 micrograms per cubic metre, which is 10% lower than the national limit value of 40. We were very close to achieving against this ambitious objective in 2023, with only 3 of the 169 sites at which we measure concentrations of this gas around the district still exceeding it, which was down from 7 the previous year. So we're well on track to achieve that target. And then in other positive developments, we were part of the Western Forest Consortium, who bid successfully to become the government's first new national forest. This project aims to create 2,500 hectares of new woodlands and other habitats across Bath and North East Somerset over the next 5 years. And the Council has been ensuring that private landlords make their properties as energy efficient as EPC ratings A to C. So we've seen improvements in the last year of 70 privately rented homes. I want to say a huge thank you to officers and colleagues who have continued to drive this agenda and to see this incredibly positive work that we're doing on this. But on balance, I would recommend the climate and nature emergency sections of the report to you as showing pleasing progress. There is undoubtedly much more work to be done, and substantial more ambition and support is needed from national government to enable us to achieve even greater things.
Thank you, Councillor Moran. Yeah, very good points. Councillor McCabe, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is a, a very interesting way of reporting our progress that we're getting the hang of. And I just wanted to contrast what Councillor Warren just mentioned was the minimum energy efficiency standards. That's a policy we brought in, and it's a tribute to our sort of planning policy enforcement and the awareness campaigns we've run, that we have had a great deal of success with that. On the other hand, contrast that with, say, households in temporary accommodation, which has gone up, which is, we're subject to external factors. We, until recently, had a government hell-bent on wealth inequality, creating a cost of living crisis, and no-fault evictions means that a lot of Bath and North East Somerset residents are being just chucked out of their homes, and the council is expected to pick that up. And so, of course, that figure has gone up. So that's a red in terms of the trend, but overall it's an amber because we're compared to other councils nationally, and we've set ourselves the target of being in the top 30th percentile across the whole country, and we are still there. So it's trying to get the hang of how to measure both the current situation, but where we are in terms of where we'd like to be on a national scale in those sorts of circumstances. But I think it's a great way to keep an eye on what we're doing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, okay. Councillor Elliott, would you like to sum up, or should we move to the electronic vote?
Just move to the vote, thank you.
Move to the vote, please. Excellent, that is unanimous. So we'll move on to the combined City of Bath and Great Spa Towns of Europe World Heritage Sites Management Plan for 24 to 2030. Councillor McCabe, to move, please.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, I am delighted to offer this World Heritage Site Management Plan for your endorsement. This document has been put together by the World Heritage Site Advisory Board, which is convened and supported by the Council, and I attend in my role as Cabinet Member. You may recall that Cabinet approved a version that went out for consultation some months ago. The outcome of that consultation, in the form of the public's responses, is published alongside the Cabinet report. This is to give you an idea of the breadth of contributions that the Advisory Board has been considering and responding to. And I must pay tribute to the skills and expertise of members on the Advisory Board, from those versed in international heritage policy to those with expert local knowledge. The process of producing this management plan has been both stimulating and thorough, all under the careful guiding hand of our new chair, Professor Marion Harney, and the diligent support of our new City of Bath World Heritage Site Manager, Adrian Nielsen. The management plan has been put together in the spirit of UNESCO World Heritage, that Bath is of outstanding value to humanity, transcending national and political boundaries, and is a positive, unifying force for good. So the headlines. It's the first ever combined management plan, including the two inscriptions, the City of Bath and Great Spa Towns of Europe. Climate change is now identified as one of the headline priorities, sitting alongside development management, public realm, traffic, transport and mobility, promotion, interpretation, inclusion and presentation, and natural setting and, for the first time, nature recovery. It's also the first time we've consulted UNESCO ICOMOS as one of the key stakeholders in the reviewing of our World Heritage Site Management Plan, which hopefully represents a new, closer working relationship. So this has been the most collaborative and participative review of our management plan, involving the World Heritage Advisory Board and its appointed management plan steering group. A year and a half of intensive, comprehensive and positive participation. It's the first time a Bath World Heritage Site Management Plan has been a solely online document that enables it to be a living document that can be updated and amended as required, particularly regarding the actions as delivery progresses, or if a new action is needed in response to changing circumstances. In order to encourage engagement, we focused on using accessible plain English and deliberately trying to avoid, where possible, technical language that could alienate potential readers or audience. And in order to keep the document punchy and relevant, we've also focused on reducing its size by placing certain elements, such as history of the site, story so far, etc., to the appendices, and removing the Advisory Board and SMG terms of reference, and instead providing a link to where they have been saved on the World Heritage Site website. We've used images from a local photographer to reduce reliance on a standard stock photos, to increase the visual appeal and to encourage engagement. And this has enhanced a greater focus and celebration of the landscape setting, both in text and actions, and also the front cover image, which was a deliberate choice, not only for its impact, but also an emphasis away from the celebrated iconic architecture that is the focus for tourism and visitors, and instead celebrating and highlighting some of the other types of architecture within our landscape. The image shows local residents enjoying and interacting with the landscape, i.e. the city isn't just for visitors, it's also for the benefit of residents to enjoy and enrich their lives. So this plan not only establishes a clear vision for the future of our city, but it also sets out aims, actions and initiatives which have been developed collaboratively to ensure the effective management and preservation of Bath's outstanding universal values, not just for this generation, but for future generations as well. Therefore, the World Heritage Site Advisory Board believes that the management plan is now ready to be submitted to UNESCO and seeks your endorsement to do so. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor McCabe. Very exciting stuff. Councillor Roper.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Happy to second. As Councillor McCabe has just said, this is the first combined plan, and the number of people that have been involved in developing it is impressive, and I'd just like to list just a few. There's ICOMOS UK, Historic England, the National Trust, the University of Bath, Bath Spa University, Bath Preservation Trust, the Federation of Bath Residents Associations, the City of Bath Charter Trustees, Bath Abbey, Great Spa Towns of Europe, and many, many more. And we've also had nearly 400 public consultation responses. So this report is a truly collaborative approach. And I think the interesting thing is that the plan outlines 6 headline priorities, and these chime very closely with our own objectives as a local authority. The document is very impressive. It's actually a very interesting read, and I draw your attention to the timeline on page 87, which takes us on a journey through Bath from AD 43 to 1908, and it's utterly fascinating. I've lived in Bath for 45 years now, and I used to travel through the city in the 1970s as well on a regular basis. And it is of interest to note that in the 1960s and 70s that there were those that would have razed very large sections of the city to the ground and replaced it with more contemporary buildings, and indeed areas of the city were razed to the ground. Conservation in that era was focused very much on preserving large, significant buildings, and they weren't really interested in conserving whole streets and areas. Unfortunately, there were a small number of people, mostly architects, including my neighbour, a gentleman called Derek Stoller, who recognised the value in the uniformity of the architecture. And people like Derek were instrumental in preserving, conserving and restoring the city. And without people like them, we would not have achieved the inscription in 1987. I think we can all recall, well, you may not recall, but the city of Bath used to be black with soot. Totally jet black, most of it, and it was concluded actually even if you cleaned the dirt off, it would come back again, but it doesn't because our air quality is so much cleaner than it used to be. But the Abbey used to be black, and they wanted to knock all these buildings down. Fortunately, most of them weren't, and the whole conservation place has changed massively, but my goodness, we owe a debt of gratitude to those people that stopped the city from being knocked down. I'd also like to mention somebody else, and that's Councillor Paul Crossley, who's been a servant of this city for many decades and was instrumental in delivering the Firme Bath Spa. Now, I mention this for a reason. His vision and commitment on what was a hugely challenging and controversial project, and I don't know if you all lived in Bath at that time, but things went pretty badly wrong. It was wrought with problems, but ultimately it was delivered, and it has delivered the superb facilities that we now have, and I have no doubt that the Firme Spas complex has had a hand in us achieving our second UNESCO inscription as one of Europe's great spa towns. So our double inscription is only one of 22 in the world and the only one in the UK. And these UNESCO inscriptions put Bath on a world stage. At a very minimum, they promote the city and tourism and cultural activity. These support the city's wider economy, as just been said. The city is thriving, and that helps the entire local authority through business rates and tourism revenue. The Roman Baths alone, which is owned by the council, generates in the region of £12 million a year directly into the council coffers, and that equates to about £145 off the household council tax bill, which is already the 4th lowest in the southwest. The Fashion Museum, as we've just heard, is the next big step in the city's cultural development. This groundbreaking and exciting project has been commissioned by this Liberal Democrat administration. We shall see in due course what benefits it brings to the authority, but there is no doubt it will be of further cultural and economic benefit to the city. In the meantime, I commend the excellent report to Cabinet and congratulate and thank the team that put the report together, and I'm happy to second the recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Very well said. I think it's important to mention Councillor Ruth Malloy is in the room, and she is the Council's representative on the Great Spas of Europe. So thank you very much for your hard work in representing the city around Europe. So thank you very much. Are you happy to move to the vote, Councillor?
Happy to move to the vote.
We shall move to the vote then.
Thank you very much, Chair. It gives me great pleasure to introduce my team, who are going to run through a presentation about highways. I don't want to steal any of their thunder, because we've already stolen a little bit already so far this evening. So over to you, Chris Major.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really pleased to be here tonight to promote the amazing work undertaken by my highways team, of whom I'm really, really proud. I'm going to spend around about 20 minutes highlighting some of the achievements, some of the outcomes and some of the challenges that we face before ending on our Highways End of Year video, which hopefully will put into context and into focus everything we've talked about. First of all, to give an understanding of the scale, to manage the highway effectively, we have around about 100 members of staff split across the different teams, and we're supported by a large number of volunteers that work with us. They are maintaining and constantly improving the network to make it safer and better for everyone. We're also blessed and at times burdened with a large number of heritage assets in Bath and North East Somerset Council, and these present challenges to resolve every single day. Of course, when we talk about highways, it's really easy to default thinking about motor vehicles, but of course that's only part of our focus, perhaps one that's been dominant for far too long. We're committed to enabling and promoting active travel with the needs of cycling, walking and public transport, reinforcing the message that the highway is a shared asset. Our key focus is ensuring that we balance the competing demands for the limited road space between cars and active travel, and to do this we have to look at and promote the requirements of those without a car as strongly as we do with those with one. But the management's a complex task, and it's challenging to get the balance right, and of course what's right for one may not be right for everyone. How do we deliver these outcomes? With that overarching aim of making the road safe for everyone and ensuring that all users are able to get to where they want to as quickly and easily as possible. It takes numbers of areas and teams working together, which I'll run through quickly. Our highways maintenance and drainage team are responsible for the everyday management of 1,102 kilometres of highway. So end to end, that's the same distance as driving from Bath to Dumfries in Scotland and back. We also have a similar amount of public rights of way to manage and work closely with our volunteer groups to do this. We also have thousands and thousands of highway assets like gullies, bridges, streetlights to maintain, whilst carrying out gritting runs in the early hours to keep the network running in the colder months. To support the future shape of the network, the design and project team work daily on technical aspects of improvement schemes, things like safer junctions, new crossings, and delivering aids to mobility programme, which installs drop curbs at crossing points that will help our vulnerable residents move more freely. We have our traffic management team, who manage the process of traffic regulation orders, those parking restrictions you see across your neighbourhood. Over 13,000 street work applications, manage 118 traffic signal sites and implement new speed limits. Obviously, parking is always going to be divisive, but on a busy network that has over a quarter of a million journeys daily in Bath alone, we need to manage it to help people visit and keep everything moving. The team help keep our streets and public car parks safe and accessible while making sure there's suitable parking for the 9,300 blue badge holders we have. And lastly, the public transport team help provide a vital function that helps some of our most vulnerable children, whether it's children with special educational needs or children in rural areas where the walk to school is unsafe. By providing free and safe home-to-school transport for 2,300 children every day, it's an impressive logistical exercise. I think, as you've just heard from Councillor Elliott, our job is to improve people's lives, and this commitment's embedded within our corporate strategy. We take great pride in helping to achieve these outcomes that we've agreed with our residents. We spend a lot. Everything we do helps us achieve the core value and motivates everything we do. On the screen, hopefully you can see some of the areas we work to deliver against these priorities. I won't go over them. I think Councillor Elliott's already done that. But I believe as a service, highways are integral to achieving the strategy outcomes that are set out in the corporate strategy. But I also know we always have more to do, and we don't take anything for granted. We also know that highways is a talking point on the doorstep, and it can be controversial at times. So our engagement with councillors has to be the bedrock to our local government success. We're really proud of how we work together in Baines to deliver that political agenda. It would be really easy for me as a director to talk about high-level strategic outcomes. I could talk about policy changes, asset management plans, when we showcase on what we deliver on behalf of members, because they're really easy for me to evidence and highlight. But the truth is many of our residents just want us to help them move about more easily. And whilst these local interventions don't necessarily change the world, it does change the ability for perhaps a child to walk to school rather than being driven, or for a person with mobility issues to get to the shops because we've improved a footway service. Residents regularly tell members what's needed in their area, and it's passed on to us, and we use it to help build that local active travel and safety programme each year. It really helps us deliver the improvements that residents really want to see. Delivering that change is a partnership, and my teams really appreciate the support they get from the councillors to set the programmes of work and deliver that strategic direction. So I thought I'd touch on how we listen to our residents. One of the ways we listen is through our National Highways and Transport Survey. It's a satisfaction survey that 94 local authorities took part in last year, which asks randomly selective residents what they think about our network. We take part every year and normally get feedback from around about 800 residents from the 3,300 who are asked. As well as the general rankings, the NHT survey matches us up against local authorities who are similar based on factors like road length, land area and population. So we get a more detailed breakdown, and we always have a fair comparison from what we're seeing. We've had some really positive results this year. For 119 of the total of 149 questions asked, our satisfaction score was above the survey average. Really pleasingly for me, resident satisfaction with the speed and quality of the response from council staff scored best in the country. Our quick and easy park and ride service came second for a second year in a row, and our winter service came third nationally. We're a really small authority, but that's a fantastic result. When we dig a bit more into the overall figures for the last 3 years, we've seen particular improvement in active travel themes, road condition themes and communication themes. And the national survey tells us, therefore, that we are doing better than most, with much more of our satisfaction scores above average and below, and we're improving year on year. However, it also shows us that we need to do more, and I'd be misleading you if I said everything was perfect. We constantly have to strive to do better, and some areas of further development include the provision of cycle lanes, ease of access for disabilities, and traffic levels and congestion, all areas we've highlighted as priorities going forward. Another way we've listened to our residents is through our Fix My Street system, an online reporting tool where residents can report problems directly to us, and over 55,000 residents have done so. That's about 50 a day. I've got to say it's one of the things I'm most pleased with since I took over as director is the work completed by our cross-council team to really upgrade this system, and you can see that in the way that we respond to people validated in the NHT survey, where we came first place in this category. Fix My Street is part of the improved offer. It links the request directly to our back office systems, and that increases our efficiency as we move forward. I think if you look at the slide very quickly, on the right you can see the overall time it takes to fix reported issues is decreasing, and I think that's a real sign of improvement, particularly with reports of damage to roads, where we've seen the time come down 75% since 2022. And yes, this year we're fixing issues in 10 days on average, a fabulous result. I think this system helps communities to help us deliver a really reactive and responsive service that we can all be proud of. I don't think it would be a surprise to anyone that councils up and down the country are facing financial challenges that impact its services. I think that's on the news regularly. As a nation, perhaps we've been less rigorous in investing in our infrastructure than we could have done, be that water infrastructure, health infrastructure, or our highway assets. And due to the age and the pressures we're seeing placed on these assets, it becomes more challenging each year. We're really, really lucky that in Baines we've got strong income streams from our highway service that includes parking, generating about 19 million of income to help offset our expenditure of approximately £27 million. The income we generate is equivalent to over £237 per household per annum, So without this, we potentially could all have to pay more. With this funding, we're able to increase our highways programmes above the level that government grants would allow. You can see on the graph, hopefully, how we've doubled our investment in our local active travel and safety programme over the last couple of years, and that has directly resulted in more crossings, more cycle schemes and more safety improvements on the highways. We've delivered more speed limit reviews, junction improvements and white lining. I also have to thank the Council for the £2 million of extra funding that goes directly into the highways capital budget each year. This has really benefited the surfacing programme, and as a result, we're seeing more work being completed. Of course, my service also sometimes delivers major projects that have a big impact on people's lives, being both the short term and the long term, even if they're not always popular. Our emissions-based parking charges were recently introduced and protected cash payments so that parking is easy and accessible for everyone. We were the first in the country to do this. It's resulted in a seamless offer where the charge is tailored directly to the vehicle you're driving and the air quality impact it has, which helps protect our most vulnerable residents. Sadly, the recent events in Maidenberg in Germany, in New Orleans and in Vancouver have sadly shown us that we have to make changes to our city to keep people safe. Vehicle-borne attacks in crowded city streets are thankfully still rare, but the threat is real and one we have to take seriously. I think our core job as a council is to keep people safe and protect our residents and visitors, be that from air pollution, from health issues or from worst-case scenarios, other types of threats. This project was a result of a collaboration with the police and forms part of our security, including our CCTV coverage. It is without a doubt a definition of spending money on a difficult decision. It may not have been popular, but it was the right thing to do. We also recognise, though, that any scheme's going to have weaknesses, but as part of our layered approach, we can make the city less of a target of those who may wish us harm. I suppose for us it's like having a burglar alarm on your house. It won't stop somebody breaking in, but it might make them realise that you are prepared. Cleveland Bridge, what can I say? I have to say it's one of the most phenomenally difficult and challenging projects we've undertaken. I can only equate it to perhaps taking your car in for a major service and then when they open the bonnet, find out the engine was completely failing. That long closure that we implemented was needed to save the future of this asset, and then the ongoing 18-tonne weight limit shows you how seriously we take the need to protect the vital transport link. We can say, though, we also support the outcomes of the government's recent studies and the prioritisation of the A350 as the primary route rather than continue to promote the use of Cleveland Bridge for traffic. So we're continuing to work with our neighbouring authorities to support the outcomes of the studies and deliver them as quickly as possible. So each year nationally we drive over 330 billion vehicle miles. That means on average every vehicle is doing about 7,400 miles. And things do go wrong for many reasons. In 2023 we had 132,000 casualties reported nationally, and we have to play our part in reducing the statistics by making our roads safer for everyone. So in Baines we've been working really hard with the aim to reduce both collisions and casualties. We're pleased that locally the number of collisions and casualties over the last 20 years has remained on a broadly downward trend, noting that the pandemic had an impact because of the reduction in numbers of journeys that we overtook during that period. I think it's also important to point out the casualty figures do cover a range of injuries from shock, minor bruising, but also the worst cases where we have broken bones and potentially fatal injuries. We hope this statistic shows and reflects a positive impact our road safety programme schemes and education are having, using a whole system approach to road safety to try and keep everybody safe. Of course, nothing we do is in isolation. We've got a long-term maintenance contract with our contractor, Volker Highways, and they're a trusted partner with our approach. That contract, it delivers significant programmes of work every year for highways and for other services, all to a fantastic level of quality. We're continuing to be more and more ambitious in our programmes of work each year as well, with increased levels of investment that I've talked about previously, and that strong partnership really continues to deliver for us. But I thought, rather than focus on practical issues about how they build a road, I'd focus more on the standards we've worked to and highlight some of the recent awards we've won. We were achieved the Considerate Constructors Scheme Bronze Award for our work on sites, going above and beyond what is best practice. Our social value work, delivering the mini road layout in Alice Park, for example, and visiting numerous primary schools, support our road safety programmes and won us an International CSR Excellence Award. And we're currently shortlisted for a Sustainability Award for our recent development for the Highways Depot at Clutton, which has reduced carbon emissions by an amazing 89%. We're really proud of these achievements and we'll continue to hold ourselves and our contractors to this really high standard. The next section, I just wanted to focus perhaps on some of the challenges we still face. The national backlog of road repairs is estimated at a mind-blowing £15 billion and it continues to grow. Despite our local investment and the progress that I highlighted earlier, the local estimate for resolving the backlog is standing at over £50 million of work still needing to be completed. However, the graph on the slide hopefully shows that we've stopped the decline that has been seen nationally and we're now moving towards reducing the outstanding work. To be able to invest the funds intelligently, each year we assess our highway through a high-definition video survey to give us an overview of its condition, and that's backed up by our dedicated highways inspectors who use their knowledge and experience to help us understand the asset. This is then used to plan our programmes of resurfacing work and our footway improvements to help active travel. As a director, though, I think I also recognise that working on the highway has some other challenges. However many reports of problems we get regarding a road, whether it be flooding or potholes, whenever we need to close it, it has a real impact on people. I have to say sometimes my teams are criticised as much if we do the work, as much if not more than if we don't. My team do a huge amount to try and coordinate works with things like school holidays when traffic volumes are lower, but during the work people are still impacted. They're still having to face disruption and diversion, which can be for an extended period. So we attempt to mitigate this with well-signed and alternative routes that are suitable for all road users, including cyclists. But I say it's an area we need to continue to focus and get better. Another closely linked issue that we know is really important to our residents is potholes. We know this from the NHT survey, and we know this from the reports that residents make to us through Fix My Street, and of course social media, which is absolutely brilliant for highlighting issues really, really quickly for us. So we're increasing our investment in fixing potholes, and you can see the effect it's having on the graphs. The number of pothole repairs almost tripled between 2022 and 2023, and we're on track to fix similar levels again this year. I have to be honest, the winter of 22-23 was the worst we'd seen. It was an engineer's nightmare. We had long spells of both cold and wet weather, which was really damaging to our network, and it created that perfect storm for potholes to form. And you can see that in the numbers of potholes reported to us, where they more than doubled. But for me, it's important to stress that pothole, I think it's a failure, because prevention is always better than cure. So to that end, I'm really pleased to be able to confirm that due to the fine weather we've been having so far this year, over 40,000 square metres of surfacing has already been delivered. That equates to nearly half the agreed programme, and it's only May. I have to thank my amazing teams for the work they've done for that. Another challenge our network's facing is the growth in numbers of vehicles across the country. Registered cars alone have grown by a third since the year 2000, so 24 million to 33 million vehicles. We're also seeing rapidly increasing size and weight of each of those cars. It's an issue worldwide, with the average size of a car now increasing by a whopping 20% in the last 10 years. The average weight of a new car has increased by over 400 kilograms in the last 7 years, due to factors like the popularity of SUVs and electric vehicles. That's about the same weight as adding a grand piano to every single vehicle. We have to be honest, our network's not designed for vehicles of this size, and we see those impacts every day. From cars parking on the pavement, because if they didn't, it would block the road, to areas where we can fit less vehicles because each one is bigger. However, I think this trend's got a more worrying impact. According to the research, when vehicles on average 300 kilograms heavier, so less than they are, the risk of fatal injuries is 30% higher for vulnerable road users like pedestrians and cyclists. They are those pedestrians and cyclists are also 30% more likely to be killed if they're hit by a car with a bonnet that's 10 centimetre higher than average, which is pretty much a design requirement of SUVs these days, it seems. That means we've got to continue to do more to protect our most vulnerable road users from the vehicle choices of others. Touching very quickly on emergency responses, in 2024, we all know the UK was hit by a series of storms, Storm Bert and Storm Dara particularly. So multiple departments within my directorate worked above and beyond with partner agencies to ensure that residents and visitors were kept safe during those periods. Over the course of 2 days in Storm Bert, it dumped 74 millimetres of rain at the Bath Gauge, which means our region received about 83% of its monthly rainfall in less than 48 hours, and that had a significant impact on the whole area. So throughout both storms, highway teams were extremely busy, working all hours responding to emergency call-outs, and I think that's reflected by the graph shown on the slide. 279 reports made over 4 days of the storm. Flooding, fallen tree, blocked drains, all being common problems we were facing. Every single sign and sandbag the team had was in use. The reality is events like this, it's having an effect on our day-to-day business. That's why climate adaptation is a key issue for the highway service. Climate adaptation is about how we prepare for and adjust to its current, expected and potential impacts of climate change, including those drier and warmer summers, milder and wetter winters, and those more frequent and intense storms. It's critical that we're prepared for the future and adapt our service accordingly. I thought I would just close off by just taking the time to look forward as well. Our aim is to make active travel the central theme to everything we do in highways. We have to approach the challenges in a different way and work on ways to allocate road space to match the needs of all users. We've got a really ambitious delivery programme, which will see improvements made all over the district. But I particularly want to highlight the increased investment into footway maintenance, which we're really proud about. The work's already well underway, but the money allocated reflects more than a doubling of the previous investment, and it shows our commitment to active travel, particularly walking. So I'm going to leave you with our end-of-year video. It's aimed at all residents in Bath and North East Somerset and hopefully shows us being our best. Hopefully you'll agree that we've got a service of which we can be really, really proud, and I have to thank my dedicated staff who make that service run day to day. Thank you.
Well done. Well, congratulations. Yeah, excellent effort. Very well done. And I think it's important there, and you mentioned it at points, Chris, to thank the residents for highlighting things and bringing that forward to your excellent team and their contribution to improving our highways as well. Because without them using the brilliant Fix My Street app, we wouldn't be able to respond as quickly as we do. Well done. Thank you. Would you like to sum up, Rigby?
Just to say I'm incredibly proud of Chris and his team. Some of those figures there, you look at them, they're completely mind-blowing. If you look at the things that you picked out as highlights, like doubling the investment for footways, like nearly trebling the amount of stuff we've done for LATs, and as you say, we do the big things well, but boy, we also do the little things that make residents' lives easy on a day-to-day basis. Could not be more proud of you.
Excellent stuff. Right. I will, before I close the meeting, I think it's important for me to just a little AOB, which is probably the privilege of the chair. Councillor Timball, this is his last cabinet meeting before he moves on to just as tricky situation as chairing the planning committee, and I would like to personally congratulate him on behalf of the cabinet, but offer him a few words before we close.
Yes, I'll keep this quite short, or I could go on for hours on this. I've been a councillor nearly 4 decades now. It's a long time representing one community. I've held every single role in this council, various apart from resources, education or leader. I've no desire for those either. I've achieved what I wanted to achieve. It's been a pleasure actually seeing the recycling centre open in Keynsham. It's been exciting now to see the Bath one going to be open, which I was told we would never achieve. We've got there. Thanks to dedicated staff and hard work of all members. I would like to thank the leader for actually keeping me on cabinet for 4 years now. I've served 3 different administrations with 3 different leaders. It's been a pleasure to serve this council. My ambitions now are to serve the group by remaining time on the councils. It could be another 6 years yet, but that will be my swan song to ease out. I'm 67 now. I've passed the full age of retirement. It's time to see new faces come in. And you have 2 exciting new faces coming to Cabinet tomorrow night, and I wish them well. I wish all current members well on Cabinet. I'm not going away. If you wish my knowledge, you can have it. If you don't wish it, you'll get it anyway. Thank you all anyway.
Thank you. I'll bring the meeting to an end. Thank you very much, everybody.